Hi, my name is Jamie Rooks, and I'm the owner and founder of Precious Diamonds Mentoring, and I'm here to give you your Black History moment. All right, y'all, let's get into it. So, the few days throughout February, I want to showcase a Black History moment in history that we've rarely heard about. So, the first lesson that I will discuss is the saying Uncle Tom. I know you guys heard that, probably used it. I know I have. So let's really get into it. So that saying has been used as a derogatory term to call a person that if they cater or pander to a certain group of people to get their approval. So I've learned recently that that's not the case. The saying Uncle Tom has been totally misconstrued in a negative fashion, but I'm here to debunk that. Let's get into it.
Born near Port Tobacco, Maryland, around 1789, Josiah Henson's first memory was of his father being whipped, having his ear cut off, and sold south, all as punishment for striking a white man who had attempted to rape his wife. He never saw his father again. Henson was later separated from his mother and sold to a child trafficker, but soon fell deathly ill. The slave trader offered the boy to Henson's mother's owner, an alcoholic gambler named Isaac Riley, for a bargain, free of charge if the young Henson died, a barter of some horseshoeing work if he survived. But he did recover, and Henson and his mother were enslaved about 12 miles from Washington, D.C. on Riley's plantation. He endured countless beatings as a child. Henson had great physical strength and leadership ability and eventually became Riley's market man in the nation's capital. As the person in charge of selling all his master's farm produce, he rubbed shoulders with eminent lawyers and businessmen and learned the skills of running a business. He subsequently became a trusted overseer, and in 1825, Henson was tasked with transporting slaves to the Kentucky plantation of Riley's brother. Although there were various opportunities to escape, Henson and the slaves arrived in Kentucky later that year. In about 1829, Isaac Riley agreed to grant Henson's freedom in exchange for $450. Henson also became a great preacher, memorizing verses and relying on his eloquence and natural sense of humor to connect with parishioners. A white minister convinced him to secretly raise money to purchase his own freedom while traveling between the Riley family's farms. The minister arranged for churches to host Henson, and he raised $350 towards his emancipation. Henson had already raised most of the money by preaching, but Riley later dramatically increased the fee. Henson would soon find out Riley swindled him out of the money and tried to sell him south to New Orleans, separating him from his wife and children. Henson narrowly avoided the harsh fate through a highly providential twist of events. Riley's nephew Amos, the young man tasked with selling Henson, contracted malaria. Rather than letting the son die, Henson loaded him on a steamship and returned north. Soon after, Henson ran away with his wife and two youngest children. They walked more than 600 miles to Canada, receiving shelter and support at safe houses along the Underground Railroad. Once established in Canada, Henson occasionally returned to the United States, where he led other runaway slaves on the long, perilous trek to freedom along the Underground Railroad. It was reported that he helped some 200 slaves. Henson helped start in 1841 a freeman settlement called the British American Institute in an area called Dawn, which became known as one of the final stops on the Underground Railroad. On his travels, Henson befriended the abolitionist Samuel Atkins Elliott, a former mayor of Boston and state legislator. Elliott would later serve in the U.S. House of Representatives. Impressed with Henson, Elliott offered to pen the story of his life as a memoir. The book, titled The Life of Josiah Henson, formerly a slave, now an inhabitant of Canada, as narrated by himself, was published in early 1849. Henson's book garnered attention at the abolitionist reading room in Boston, as well as in like-minded households throughout the North. On one of his trips home from Boston, Henson took a detour to visit a woman who was about to write a book of her own. That woman was Harriet Beecher Stowe. Harriet Beecher Stowe cited Henson's work among her sources for Uncle Tom's Cabin. Uncle Tom's Cabin debuted in the Era on June 5, 1851, and it ran in 41 weekly installments over the following 10 months and immediately grabbed the capital city's attention. Indeed, the backlash against the novel came rapidly. Critics argued that Stowe's writing was far too emotional to impact events in the real world. After all, it was a novel. It wasn't based on facts, they said. And in any case, some said she'd overlooked many of the benefits of slavery, including romantic love between an enslaved woman and her master. After the publication of Stowe's novel, theater owners adapted the story for the stage, producing time shows, better known as minstrel shows. Time was a caricature, an old hunchback with poor English who would happily sell out his own race to curry favor with his owner. Even though the novel was the best-selling book of the century, considerably more people saw one of these racist performances than rather read the book. The perversion of the name Uncle Tom has stuck ever since. For his part, Henson used the publication of Stowe's books to agitate for change in the United States. He republished his memoir and used the funds to purchase his brother's freedom. He supported black families whose husbands and fathers went off to fight in the Civil War. He ran businesses in Canada to employ black refugees. Henson died in Dresden, Ontario in 1883 at the age of 93. Henson's cabin in Dresden is now a small museum, and more than 200 of his descendants are still alive today.
If you would like to know more about Josiah Henson, please search the links above. And also there is a great documentary on Amazon Prime. So check it out. Wasn't this information about Josiah Henson mind-blowing? When I first saw the documentary, I was blown away because I was so ignorant to the fact that that saying was used to degrade a person because of how they catered and pandered to a particular group of people. The more you know, right? So I'm here to tell you, do not condense your learning of our history, Black history, to the month of February. Keep it going 365, okay? Because we're Black 365. All right? So with that being said, I want to tell you that you are loved, you are blessed, and you are deserving. I want you to have a great Monday. And guess what? Join me tomorrow for another Black History Moment. All right. Bye.